Hello and welcome to the podcast Life Without Limits. This is the podcast where we talk to interesting people who have been through tough times and come out the other side to achieve great things. So my guest for you today is Gabby. I met Gabby earlier this year in a CrossFit competition. And so Gabby's story is she had her leg amputated at the age of 19. And she's now 22 years old. So just 2 years later, she's now competing in CrossFit. She's getting into running and living life with a new prosthetic leg. So we're going to get a bit about her and her story. So welcome, Gabby. Gabby, how are you?
I'm really good, and thanks so much for having me on the podcast.
That's all right. Anytime. It's great to have you on. So tell us a bit about you and your story.
I have quite a long story, but I'll try to keep it as short as possible. I actually grew up in South Africa, and I grew up with a bone condition called congenital pseudarthrosis. So basically, it just means that in my left tibia, my leg would break spontaneously and it wouldn't want to grow back together. So I've grown up always with some sort of walking aid, so like a leg brace or crutches or something of the sort, and loads of surgeries, because every time my leg would break, I would need surgical intervention. So obviously, because my leg broke so much, my left leg was considerably shorter than my right leg. So I had a surgery to sort of lengthen the leg and try and get it to be the same as the right leg. And there's not much research on this sort of like bone disease, just because it's so rare. And so there's no funding. And so they didn't really know if I would grow out of it. But from the few people that had had it before me, they thought that as I got older, it would sort of straighten itself out. Wasn't the case. And due to some surgical complications that I had during my gap year after my A-levels, I decided to have my leg amputated after the first year of university. Honestly, it sounds quite sad to most people, but the best decision I've ever made. I'm so much more happy, so much more active, and I now have this incredible community around me.
So did your leg used to break just by walking?
Yeah, so literally nothing would spur it on. It would just break, and I wouldn't even notice because I have quite a high pain threshold. So it wasn't even dramatic in any way. It would just be over the course of a couple of weeks, I would be like, oh, actually, this is hurting a little bit. But I would be so used to it that I wouldn't notice for quite a while, until I started maybe limping a bit. And then I went, okay, maybe I should get this checked out, and it would be broken.
And then as you got older, did it get more painful and more restricting?
It got more restricting in the sense that I had more that I wanted to do that I wasn't able to do. Not necessarily different from when I was younger. I think when I was younger, I sort of just accepted that if I couldn't do something, then that was it. But as I got older, it just became harder because I was trying to fight back a little bit. And I said, well, I want to do this. Why can't I do it? Like, there should be nothing holding me back, which is why having my leg amputated has been so liberating in a way, because I've been able to take control back of my life and be able to do things like you said, like CrossFit, which I would never have been able to before.
So what was the first thing you got into when you got your leg amputation and got a new prosthetic?
So the first thing I actually got into was the gym. I think that going to the gym for me was the most accessible thing, just because I could go there and try a whole bunch of things out. As an amputee, you're also a bit limited in what you can do because things need special equipment that you don't always have access to. So going to the gym was something where I could do whatever I wanted without any special equipment that would cost me extra money.
And did you find you were now kind of living a life pain-free more than before?
Yeah, completely. Now I go to the gym and I'm able to do whatever I want, and I don't have to worry as much as I did before about, have I injured myself? Is my leg randomly going to break on this Tuesday afternoon at the gym or not? It just has taken a lot of stress out of being active.
Yeah. So did you kind of find lots of communities or people with disabilities straight away, and how did you kind of get into meeting other people?
That's actually a really interesting question, because I had a bit of notice because I had an elective amputation. I had a bit of notice on my surgery. Not much. It was only about a month or two that I knew I was going to have the surgery. And so I started looking for people that had been in a similar position to me, and I couldn't find anyone. At that time, even though it was just 2 years ago, social media was very scarce in terms of people being advocates for the disabled community or people showcasing their lives. So I really struggled to find anyone that I could just look up to. I didn't know anyone in my personal life that was an amputee or, massively an advocate for the disabled community. So when I became an amputee, I actually didn't have anyone and I wasn't part of that community. When I came back to London and I started seeing events popping up on social media, sort of like adaptive CrossFit, I really wanted to get involved, not necessarily to compete or to become more fit, more just to go there and be a part of the atmosphere. And I mean, you've been there before, that it's just such an incredibly supportive community. And so I found my community that way, just by taking part in events. I also applied for this thing called the Nissan Possibilities Project with Nissan and the Richard Whitehead Foundation. And so I've met a whole lot of people who stand up for the disabled community through them, which has been amazing. And now I literally just love the community that we've built. I think it's incredible. And I don't actually know how I managed to do the first few months without any of us.
That's the power of social media, because especially for me as a kid and a teenager, I grew up, I didn't know anyone that had the same disability as me or any disabled people. As I got older, you just start seeing these posts from people with the same disabilities doing all these things, and you start making friends and doing events. And that's how things are.
It was quite an interesting mindset shift for me, I think, because growing up, obviously looking back, I know now that I have always had a disability, but just the mindset that was around at that time was that disability was such a bad word, and to be disabled was such a terrible, terrible thing that I was scared to call myself disabled. And if anyone had ever even alluded to the fact that I was disabled, I would shut it down immediately. And I would hold back from asking for help when I needed help because I didn't want people to view me as disabled. And I really fought the word a lot. And then when I had my leg amputated and I sort of accepted, I have a disability and sometimes I need these extra things, but that doesn't, make me any different to these other people. I kind of looked back and I felt sorry for myself that I'd fought it so much. And I think we're just in such a good place right now where people's mindsets are completely shifting. And it is people like you and me in the community that we've built that are helping people to see, what are disabled people really capable of.
So you kind of feel very shy and self-conscious when you're out in, let's say, the normal public. But when you find what you're good at, you're like, you have to embrace it and just go with it. And especially when you do things like adaptive CrossFit, you'll find everyone with a disability is going out there and smashing it as best they can. And it makes you feel not self-conscious, and you don't want to hide away. You want to go out there and show the others what you can do, and they're showing you what they can do. And it's just this great atmosphere. That's the power of it.
And it's just so amazing that no matter what someone's ability is, they're still supported and they're still hyped up. And it's competitive in a way that you're competing against yourself. You're not competing against each other anymore.
So you said you're now kind of working alongside Nissan. So how have Nissan helped you, and what's kind of coming up for you with Nissan?
So as part of the project that I worked on with them, me and 4 others, we all got running blades. So something you might not know is that on the NHS, if you are over the age of 18, you are almost entirely not eligible to get a sort of sports prosthetic, whereas the running blade would count as a sports prosthetic. And so as someone who has never been able to run growing up due to sort of like the setbacks that I faced, I didn't know if running was my thing. I didn't know if I was going to enjoy it, but I also was never given the chance to try it. And I just thought that was absolutely shocking. The fact that as an able-bodied person, you can sort of just like put on some shoes, go outside, run down the road, you decide if you like it or not. And even though I understand that the equipment for an amputee is a bit more expensive, I do think that you do deserve the chance to have the opportunity to be active. And so that's the work that we're trying to do through Nissan, providing opportunities for young amputees to try sports and get into sports and sort of give them a gateway to the active lifestyle that they are entitled to, but they aren't allowed under the current guidelines. And so I was part of that project initially, and I got my running blade. And so now I sort of see it as like it's like a bit of freedom for me. I don't feel any pressure to, you know, be the next Paralympic sprinter or to run a marathon. And I think that those are all very valid goals, but they're not my goals. For me, it's more just like, today is Wednesday. I feel like going for a run. I get to go for a run because I have this bit of equipment. So that's what they've given me. And it's been a very, very massive gift. And so we're actually moving on now to the second host of beneficiaries. So there will be 5 more people who will be receiving running blades next year. And I'm going to now move into a mentorship role for them and sort of like guide them on their journey and hopefully help instill in them sort of like this mindset that I've grown into.
That's amazing. So it's kind of stopping restrictions for those that otherwise would never be able to even try something.
Yeah, and there are a whole host of fabulous charities out there that give you the opportunity to try sort of like different things as an amputee. But I think that it's quite special in that, you know, my running blade belongs to me, and that is also a bit of autonomy coming back to me, and that, you know, this is my leg and I own it and I can do whatever the hell I want with it, essentially.
And how much do those blades cost normally, kind of?
So there is a bit of a varying scale. So there are a couple more budget-friendly blades. The problem is that if you get one of them, you do sort of face the setback of maybe the alignment isn't so good. So, you know, your hips will be a bit out. But if you are willing to try, then that's okay. Those are about, if I remember correctly, about £2,000. The more standard running blades are on average £10,000. And that is just for the blade, excluding the socket that you need to go onto that blade, which is, depending on where you get it done, between another £5,000 and £10,000, which is crazy.
They're like right out of the price range of most people.
Most people, yeah, especially like I became an amputee while I was a university student, and that, you know, that is way out of my budget for anything, let alone, you know, what would be classed as a luxury to the NHS. So
yeah, so this side of doing great things and helping lots of people get into sport. They even helped me in the Great South Run recently by providing guide runners for people with disabilities. So they're doing lots of great things for inclusivity and sport events.
I think what's really great about Nissan and what Nissan are doing is that they're listening to the disability community. They're hearing what we are saying we need. I think for too long, people have decided what disabled people need based off of their perceptions of what it means to live with a disability. And that's just entirely untrue. I think we're now taking the power back and people are listening to us about our needs. And I think that that is a shift I've seen, even, for example, like in university, where all of a sudden the onus is being put onto me to say what I need rather than people deciding, which is far better, I think.
Definitely, and that's going to make a big difference in the world. And could other people and companies could follow suit in the future.
Yeah, and it's not a hard change at all. If anything, it would be easier for them. So I really hope that other companies sort of like see how impactful this is.
Because there's another company, Gymshark, who are very kind of inclusive as well. Because they invited us to come and do a training session down at their headquarters. And going into Gymshark, this is one of the only kind of shops I've been into where they have the mannequins. Most you see the able-bodied mannequins, but in Gymshark they got mannequins in either wheelchairs or an amputee mannequins, and that's kind of, you never see that anywhere else. So it is getting out there.
And it is so special to see big brands embracing that sort of thing, because it's just such a small change for them, but they don't understand how much that would impact our lives, going into that shop for the first time and seeing that and feeling really welcomed.
And inspiring someone to get into sport, changing their lives.
Yeah, exactly. Because if such a big company like Gymshark can have, you know, a wheelchair athlete, you know, that could inspire almost an entire generation of wheelchair athletes. So it's really interesting to see how other brands follow suit.
So with you, what are your plans and future now? So you're now at university. What are you studying at university?
I'm studying chemistry. So I'm actually in my final year. I only have about 6 months left of my entire degree, and then hopefully I'll graduate with a master's in chemistry. The future past that point is still a bit blurry. I know I want to have a corporate job, but if I do end up taking a gap year, I have thought about maybe doing some sort of like charity work abroad. Like I mentioned, I'm from South Africa. And as much as I see faults with the NHS and the offering here, I do understand that I'm still in a massively privileged position compared to amputees in other poorer countries, like where I came from. And so I think I am considering taking some time out just to go and do some volunteering and see what work I can do to raise money, and sort of help the people who don't even get basic walking prosthetics, let alone running prosthetics.
And you're going to be a mentor for Nissan, which would be pretty incredible. That'd be really cool.
Hopefully, I can inspire some really cool people to do some really cool things.
You will. Are you going to look to do some more CrossFit competitions, adaptive CrossFit competitions?
Yeah, most definitely. I think being based in London is incredible for me, just because like this is the hub of where things tend to happen. And if I ever see an adaptive CrossFit competition that pops up, on my Instagram or wherever, I almost definitely sign up, even though I have no training planned. Just because I love taking part, and I know I'm gonna absolutely regret signing up about 5 seconds into the assault bike. But I'm just always so happy to be surrounded by my community. I think it's one of the first times actually in my life that I've felt understood by a group of people, and so it is quite a special thing to be a part of.
It really is. Yes. So on my next question, what is your biggest, proudest achievement?
So, I mean, this is quite a hard question to answer as well.
It could be a few. It could be a few. Give us.
I mean, specifically for me, so I know I mentioned I had my amputation after my first year of university, and I'd had a failed surgery in the gap year prior to university. So when I found out, or decided rather, that I was going to have my amputation, I decided I wasn't going to let it consume any more of my life than it had already up until that point. All of my early years had been consumed by this. You have a leg problem, your bone is broken, you're disabled, that sort of thing. And I thought, I'm not going to let this be what is me anymore. And so I planned my amputation to happen right after the end of my first year of university. So I finished what would have been like a Friday and had my amputation on like the Monday or the Tuesday. And I fought really hard in that coming month to recover, because I was not going to take any time out of university to have this surgery. And so when I started learning to walk, I was very disciplined. I learned to walk really quickly, got up on my feet, got my prosthetic, and I returned back to university in time for second year to start. And it was honestly the most challenging year of my life. Obviously, I was going through all of these things, physical problems with being an amputee, mentally still trying to deal with the fact that I'm grieving the loss of a limb. But I still managed to do really well in second year at university. And I said to myself, if I could do this, I could quite literally do anything in the world. So for me, that was my proudest achievement, just getting through second year of university, having had all of this stuff happened just the month prior. And so that is something that actually really motivates me when I think things are really hard and I'm really struggling. I just look back and I'm like, actually, no, it was way harder back then. You'll be fine. So that's for sure my proudest achievement. And then as a greater achievement to that, I suppose, just encompassing all of that is just sort of standing up for the community. I know that I want to be someone that I would have appreciated having at the beginning of my journey. So that is something that also really motivates me.
Yeah, be the person that you needed when you were younger.
Exactly. And that I am quite proud that I do think that I have fulfilled that. And I will continue to fulfill that. I think if I was younger and I saw myself now, I would be incredibly proud. And I just think that you just have to be happy with that. And I wouldn't change a thing.
Do you think going through that moment, that kind of moment in your life, made you more resilient and stronger? So you can think back now, I went through that. I'm now stronger and more. I believe I can do more than I am capable of now.
Absolutely. And I think, I see that retrospectively as well as, into the future. Back then, I didn't think I could get to the point where I am now. So when I look at something in the future, I think, oh, that's completely unattainable. No way I can do that. I just go, oh, but you didn't think you could be here. So why do you think you can't be there? And I think that really helps me to strive for my goals in life, strive for any sort of achievement that I'm wanting to get towards. But yeah, it does really push me.
What were some of the biggest obstacles you faced and how did you overcome them? So when you first had your amputation, did you find balance was a big issue? Did you fall over a lot, learning how to walk again?
So, I mean, for me, it was quite a funny one, actually. So 2 years before my amputation, I'd started being on crutches permanently. So I was on crutches for 2 years and I wasn't fully weight bearing on my left side. So when I had my leg amputated, all of a sudden I was able to weight bear on my left side. But I sort of had this issue where I didn't trust the left side of my body. I didn't think that if I, fully weight bared on that side, that I was just going to be able to walk. And so when I was learning to walk, I really had some serious trust issues with my left leg, where I was scared. I was really, really scared to put all of my faith, as I had done before, and be disappointed again. So for me, it was overcoming this mental barrier that I had overcome the obstacles I'd already been through, and that I sort of just needed to push forward. I mean, obviously, I was able to do that, and now I can walk quite comfortably, and I don't have those same issues. But at the time, it was a real struggle to not be stuck in the mindset of where you were, before your surgery.
And like at the age of just 20, most 20-year-olds are out, their priority is going out drinking and partying, and you're kind of really digging deep, getting through these tough times. So it's making you stronger mentally and physically.
Oh yeah, no, 100%, 100%. And I think after that surgery, all of my friends, who were out there being normal young adults, they sort of saw where I was and my perspective, and I think they really were just very impressed that someone who was technically in the same position as them was able to do what I was doing. So that obviously does also motivate you, having people around you being really supportive.
So what would you say to somebody who thinks they are unable to reach their full ability because of their disability? What advice would you give to the younger version of you?
Yeah, so 1000%, I would say to whoever, has this sort of mindset, to take that mindset and just scrap it. Everything that you've heard about disability, learned about disability, seen about disability is completely false. There are the most incredible people out there being advocates for the disabled community that could be such excellent role models. And I would just say, look up to them. If they are able to do it, there's no reason why you can't either. We're all just one big community that is completely misunderstood. And that, just flip that mindset on its head. If you want to do something, you most absolutely can. You might just need to ask for a bit of help getting there.
And always along the way, there's always going to be people trying to push their kind of version or opinion on you,
Yeah.
saying you can't do this, you can't do that, and that's not always that's not always the right way. It's not always true, because there
Yeah,
are as adaptive. There's always ways to do things.
exactly. You might have to change the way that you're doing things, but you most absolutely can do anything.
You can find a way. It's like you might walk into a gym and try and do a deadlift. People be like, no, you can't do that, but you can do that. You just do it a different way.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to surround yourself with people who understand that. I know when I got to a point in the gym where I was comfortable going to the gym by myself, and I got a personal trainer. He had never worked with any disabled clients before, and he'd never had an amputee work with him before, but he understood that I was able to do anything. And all he would do to make sure that I was comfortable is every time he would introduce a new exercise, he would say, "Does your leg hurt? Is that okay?" And I would say yes. And from that point on, it was no questions asked. He would push me. He would push me further and further as I wanted to be pushed. But I was never, mommy coddled. I was never bubble wrapped. And I think that that is such a danger with people with disabilities, that we are so bubble wrapped when you just don't want to be, because there's sometimes just no need for it. So yeah, surround yourself with people who understand that you are capable, and just use that to push forward.
Definitely, that's good advice. Yeah. So if anyone that's watching and is thinking, I would love to do this, I would love to do that, don't restrict yourself and say I can't do it. Find people that can and just get advice. Especially with Gabby here. If you want to message her, give her a follow on her social media. So if people want to connect you, how can they find you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. My handle is at Gabriella Runs. Anyone can feel free to message me, whether it be for advice, or anything of the sorts. My DMs are always open.
So guys, if you want some more advice from Gabby, follow her on Instagram, give her a message. She's going to be doing lots of big things coming up in the future. We're going to get her running as well. We've got
Yeah.
to.
one day I'll work up to the half marathon just like you, and
we'll do it together. We'll do it good. We'll do it good. So running, adaptive CrossFit, yeah, there's endless opportunities for the future.
Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to it.
It's been great to chat to you today. Thanks for coming onto the podcast. And
No,
I'm sure I will see you soon, whether it's in the gym or out running.
All right. Thank you so much, And.
See you soon.
Bye.